Hi, I'm May, and today I'm going to show you how to make this chunky star garland with pom-poms. I've made 5 stars and I've attached them to this nice chunky I-cord which goes with the chunkiness of the stars. What you'll need for this is some Aran yarn. I've used this Toft Aran, which the colour is silver. It's 100 grams, which is 110 metres or 120 yards. And one ball is enough to make 5 stars and an I-cord hanger. And there's a little bit left over. So let's get started. So as well as your Aran yarn, you don't have to use Aran yarn, but I wanted to make chunky stars. So as well as your Aran yarn, you'll need a 5mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle, a pair of nice sharp embroidery scissors to cut your yarn. You'll need a sewing needle, some sewing thread that is a light colour and that won't show up against the yarn. You'll need some pom-poms. I use these ready-made pom-poms which are about 6 centimetres in diameter, and you'll also need some of this sparkly metallic thread. What I used that for was to thread through the I-cord just to give it a little bit of sparkle, but that's optional, you don't have to use that. So let's get started. So first of all, leave yourself a nice long tail end, because that helps with the sewing up bit. Make a magic ring or an adjustable ring, whatever you like to call it. Secure that, and then we're going to chain 3, which counts as our first treble stitch. That's double crochet if you're working in American crochet terms. And having made our 3 chains, we're then going to work 14 trebles into our magic ring. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So just before you tighten that up, remember you've got quite a long tail end. I just like to count and double check that I've got the right number of stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and our initial chain 3 makes 15. So let's pull that to just tighten that up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 to close that up, and then you can just pull your tail end a little bit more just to close that up a bit. It does have a tendency to open up again, but you don't really need to deal with that until right at the end when you're sewing up. Get your tail end out of the way, make sure that you've unravelled enough yarn so that you're not continually having to stop, which is annoying when it happens. And there I've got my tail end in the way. Right, so what we're going to do now is to make the first point of our star. So we start that by chaining 7 chains. 5, 6, 7. And then in the second chain from the hook, we work 1 double crochet. The next stitch is a half treble, so we yarn over, pull that through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's our half treble crochet. Then we're going to make 2 trebles. So 1 treble into the next stitch, 1 treble into the next stitch, like that. Then we're going to make 2 double trebles. So wrap your yarn around twice, insert your hook, pull a loop through, 4 chains on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we do exactly the same into that last chain. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to miss the next stitch and we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch like that, and that makes your the first point of your star. So you then slip stitch into the next stitch and then start all over again to make your next star point. So chain 7, then we double crochet into the second chain from the hook, we half treble crochet into the next chain, then we make a treble in each of the next 2 stitches like that, and then a double treble into the last 2 chains. There we go. And then we miss a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch like that, and slip stitch into the next stitch to start again. So we've now got 2 stars, 2 points of our stars, and we're going to end up with 5 altogether. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So double crochet, half treble crochet, then 2 trebles, miss a stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch to complete our 3rd point, and slip stitch into the next stitch, ready to start the next one. So I've gone ahead and made all 5 points, and with the last one again you miss a stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and then just slip stitch into that very first one. and then leave a nice long tail end, because you're going to use that to sew up the star, and just snip that off, and then pull that yarn through like so. Just tighten up that centre hole, and there you've made your first star. So for each of the stars, obviously you'll need to make 2 of these because you're going to sew them together. So altogether you need to make 10 stars if you're going to have a garland of 5 complete stars. So we'll go ahead and make the next one. Okay, so having made our 2 stars, it's now time to sew them together. What you'll notice with a star constructed in this way is that there's a bit of a gap between the centre of the star and the points. I've pre-done this one, so you'll notice that this one is a bit more secure and there are no gaps. And the reason for that is because I've closed them up using the tail end from the centre. So I'll show you how I do it. So thread the tail end onto a tapestry needle, and the first thing to do is to reclose that centre hole. So just tug on the tail end a bit to close that up, and then to keep that secure, what I do is just work under a few stitches, pull that through, and then do it once more. Just work that under a few stitches, pull it through. Don't pull it too tight, but just enough to secure. Then the reason for leaving this long tail end is that you'll see this gap between the centre and the point of the star. So what I do is I take my tapestry needle, I just thread it through a couple of stitches on the centre bit of the star and the point, go up and then back down again like that. Again, don't pull it too tight, it just wants to hold it in position. Then work round to the next point and repeat that again. So don't pull it tight, just secure it, and then work your way round all 5 points of your star, doing the same thing. And that will just give it a little bit of firmness, because the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to stuff the star, but we're only going to stuff the centre of it. We're not going to stuff the points. So what this does is it keeps it sort of nice and secure. The other thing that you don't need to do, you don't need to cut this tail end off. Just leave it, and that will go in the centre when you stuff it. All you need is a little bit of toy stuffing, just enough to sit in the palm of your hand like that, not very much. So we'll be using that in a bit. Now, with the very long tail end that we left when we finished the star, first thing to do is to thread that onto your tapestry needle, and we're going to have that pointing upwards, and we slip stitched that. I'm just going to take that through to the back just to sort of move it away so it doesn't show there. Then with the other star, which I've already done, secured the points, we're going to have that tail end pointing downwards and this one pointing upwards. So put your two stars together like so, and what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing them together. And what I do is I take a stitch from a loop rather, not a stitch. I don't go through the whole stitch like that. I just go through the outside loops, just so that it's not, because it's quite thick yarn anyway, and I've got these all of a tangle now, which you do not want to do. So, having detangled your yarn, we're going to join this together by just going through the outside loops. You don't have to be too exact about this, but just line your star points up and just catch the two sides together like this. Don't pull too tightly because you don't want the star point to pucker, and just go round your star point like that, just joining it all up. And when you get to that part of the star between the points, you just carry on in the same way, just catching a loop from either side and then continuing round to the next one. And just carry on doing that until you've worked round 4 of the 5 stars, because what we're going to do is we're going to stuff the middle of the star with some just polyester toy filling. But that's just the middle part to give it a nice bit of padding in the middle. So just carry on like this until you've done 4 of the star points. Right, I've actually got round 3 points of the star, and what I've found is that my tail end is now a little bit short. It's not going to get me round the next 2 points of the star, so I'm going to just leave that, and I'm going to take the tail end from the other side of the star, which is now here. As you can see, it's there, and I'm going to thread that yarn tail up. Now, these two here are the tail ends from the centre, from the magic ring, and so I'm just going to stuff those inside the star. There's no need to cut them off because they can act as a bit of the padding along with the along with the toy filling. I'm going to leave that one for now, and then I'm going to carry on working round the edge of the star, just joining it all up. Like this. Just catching one loop from either side and working your way along the point of your star. As I say, you don't have to be too exact about this because the yarn's all the same colour, so it's not going to show. So we've got one more to go. We've nearly finished that one. So at this point, it's a good idea to pop your little ball of toy stuffing into the centre there, just to kind of puff out that centre so it's a bit more 3D. And then you can just carry on sewing up the points of the star. It's a little bit of a fiddly job, but it doesn't take too long. Because it's a long piece of yarn, you might need to untangle it every so often because it twists. Okay, so we're now working down the final edge. So we just need to close up that last little bit in between the 2 points. Now it's very easy to deal with these yarn ends. You can just push it through like that, and then push it through again and come out somewhere else, and one more for good luck, and then you can just snip that off and do exactly the same thing with the other tail end, the one that we dropped sort of halfway along, just to secure it so that nothing comes loose. There we go. Just snip that off. And there we have a finished star, and as you can see, it's got a fat squidgy middle, and it's quite a chunky star. And so the next thing to do is to attach our little pom-poms to 4 of the star points. just 4 because that one is going to be attached to the hanger. So to do this, I would just get a sewing needle, and I've chosen a pale, very pale pink sewing thread. Make a knot in the end. And then in order to sew it on, you just want to go through the pom-pom first, and then when you come back down the other way, just catch the very point of that star and keep going back through a few times. It's fairly easy to hide the thread inside the edge of the star and the pom-pom so that it doesn't show, and it's a light colour anyway. So just go up and down through the pom-pom and into the edge of the star a few times. Until you've sewn that on and it feels nice and secure. Once more for good measure. And then again you can just snip that off close to the star and it won't show. And then you do 3 more of those and repeat for the 4 other stars once you've made them. So once you've sewn all the pom-poms onto your star points, it's now time to make the I-cord hanger. So leave a bit of a tail end, make a slip knot, and what we're going to do is we're going to chain 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's going to be to make a loop at the end of our I-cord hanger. Then to make the I-cord, we're going to chain 3, and these 3 will form the base for our I-cord. So what you then do is you pull up a loop, you insert your hook, pull up a loop in that one, insert your hook, pull up a loop in that one, and those 3 chains are the basis for our I-cord. So what you have to do now is you have to slip these 2 chains off, but keep hold of them so they don't come loose. Chain through that one, put the next loop back on, make a chain, put the next loop back on and make another chain, and you just continue in this way. So make a chain, put the second loop back, it's a little bit fiddly, make another chain, put the third loop back, make another chain, and so you continue. So do hold on to those so they don't unravel. Oops. That's me being a bit clumsy. And then the third one. One's just popped over there. So we carry on doing that until we've worked about 104 centimetres. So that's the length that your I-cord needs to be in order to fit your 5 stars on comfortably. So just carry on doing that until you've got a nice long I-cord. Okay, so I've made my I-cord as long as it needs to be. It's about 104 centimetres in length. So I'm now going to finish off by going yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And then I'm going to finish off with 10 chains to match the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I'm going to cut that off, pull that through, and there I've got the 10 chains at the end. Now, to give this a little bit of sparkle, what I did is I used some of this silvery thread and I just wove it through, first of all, the chain. You don't need to bother to make a knot at the end. Just I've cut quite a long piece of this thread because I'm going to weave it right the way through the I-cord. So first of all the chain, and then you come up into the I-cord. So when you have quite a long piece of thread, it does tend to get a little bit tangled. So, oops, I've managed to make a little knot there, so I'll just untangle that. Right, so we're up to the I-cord now. So what I did was I just kind of turned it, went through a couple of loops, and then I just kept turning it as I was going. So here we go. Just go through a couple of loops and then turn it a little bit again and go through a couple more so that it's evenly distributed around the I-cord, and it just gives it a nice little bit of a sparkle. You can get this thread in this metallic thread in all sorts of different colours. So if you wanted to make your I-cord in and your stars, in fact, in a red or a green or a pink or whatever colour you choose, you can get the thread to match, or you might just want to use a silver or a gold to give it a little bit of Christmas sparkle. So there you can see that it's quite subtle, but it's quite a nice effect, I think. So just work your way up the I-cord gradually, turning it round and round as you go. And then when you get to the end, I'll show you what to do next. So now that we've finished weaving the silver thread through, just cut the ends off, then get a tapestry needle, thread those through your tapestry needle, and then all we're going to do is just weave this through the chain, just backwards and forwards, and then up the middle of the I cord as far as it'll go, and then just pull it through. Pull those threads through and then just pull back a bit on the 10 chains at the beginning just to straighten that out. And my ends are so short that they've virtually disappeared into the I cord. If they're sticking out, just snip them off, and then to make a loop at the end we're just going to double the chain over so that it's level with the beginning of the I cord, and then just take a needle and some sewing thread, make a knot in the end, and then just sew backwards and forwards. Obviously use a thread that blends in with the yarn colour, and then just go backwards and forwards a few times, secure it like that, and then just snip the thread off and you're done, and you've got a nice little hanging hook there. And then just do the same at the other end, and you should have 2 little hanging hooks. Then the next thing to do is to add your stars. So find the middle of your I cord, which for me is there, then get your first star, and you will literally do the same thing with your sewing thread that we've just done. I'm just making a knot in the end of this. And then what I do is go up that way so that you hide the knot, and then just stitch backwards and forwards into the top of the star point and through the I cord several times until you feel it's nice and secure. And you could do this for each one, and then that's probably enough times for that now. And then just snip your sewing thread off, and there's the first one. It's nice and securely attached to that nice thick chunky I cord. So do the same with the other 4 stars so that they're equally positioned along the length of your I cord, and then we'll have a look and see what that looks like. Okay, so I finished sewing on my 5 stars, and my star garland is done. It's very hard to show you this all at once because it's such a big chunky project, but it's all done, so you can use this to hang on a door, hang on a wall, hang on over your fireplace. It makes a lovely decoration, and I like this pattern so much that I've started doing it in a sparkly yarn. So I'll just show you this. This has, I don't know if you can see, it's got a nice sparkle in it. It's Serdar Soiree, and it's got a very nice subtle sparkle. So I'm going to try and make one with with this yarn as well, in this lovely pale pink. So I hope you enjoyed that, and leave me some comments.